up? What's up? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of our favorite pitch practice, the show. I'm Mark, the guy behind the mental marketer in the private Facebook group Funnel Building 101. As always, we're helping you grow and monetize your brand online using social media and funnels. And now we're doing sales funnel hubs, migrations, just a whole bunch of good stuff. I got today with me here none other than the ever growing, ever improving, constantly moving. Introduce yourself, Laura.
That's right. Constantly learning, constantly innovating, constantly going to the next level, constantly meeting my own greatness. The only person I need to know how to close on every day,
Is
it's
my
myself.
is yourself. Wow,
Myself.
wow.
It's myself.
Yeah, yeah. Closing on yourself is always the number one thing you should have to do. Man, so I want to thank you all for watching out there. Thanks for tuning in. We love seeing you. Smash that heart button. Let's push this out to more people so they can come and practice with us. We got the closer survival guide, and we want to always talk about we were having a conversation before going live just about that very thing, about closing on yourself and about getting in the reps, about it being about repetition being the mother of skill. When you how just share with us how, because we all know that you've made some changes recently. So how's that going for you, Laura?
It's look, I'm moving in the right direction. Every time I have a disappointment, every time I don't know something, or every time I'm questioning something, I'm always thinking, great, I can't let this happen to me again, right? I need to
Mm-hmm.
make right. And that means sometimes you do have to go through these learning curves, but I always remind myself I'm in the right room, right? Because I'm getting pushed to grow at a speed that maybe I wasn't ready to go and run to, right?
Uh-huh.
But that just reminds me this is good for me. Every time I have a little bit of like, oh, punch in the face and the gut, and I'm like, okay, good. This is like a different kind of level of disappointment or excitement all at once. And it just reminds me, right? If one day I want to go do $1 billion deal or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deals, that means I have to go through some of these stages, right? How do you get to the
Yeah.
top of that? You have to know how not to make some of those mistakes. And no matter how much you train, you still
Mm-hmm.
have to go through that experience with your own body, with your own flesh, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. Being right there in the moment, because it's when you start to uh take that emotion out of the equation and realize that it's I'm gonna go to this book right here that we're reading, and I keep these in mind when I'm going through those situations. And this comes from the rules, uh, the 10 rules. Remember,
The
uh,
rules of success, or which ones?
these are the 10 rules. Hold on, let me.
He's got the front of this one.
These are just the rules of closing. It's right after the barriers to getting a deal closed. These are the rules. So this is rule number 12 from page 82.
Okay.
Always, always maintain a positive demeanor, no matter the response from the buyer, or for that matter, from your own management.
Yeah.
Go into that closing situation knowing that it's going to be closed, that the deal is going to be closed, knowing that your buyer on the other end is going to say yes, because you've practiced and you've gone through so many repetitions that you can read your customer's mind. You know what they're thinking before they even utter it.
Yeah. And that's what you also have to practice with a customer, right? I know for me, I'm in the franchise sales space, so even if I know somebody's not a buyer, sometimes if I don't understand the brand that well, I still need to take them through the entire sales process, even if if someone's a buyer or not. But it
Mm-hmm.
becomes important to understand the flow of what a buyer's thinking, because
Mm-hmm.
when you a buyer, then they have different questions, right? They have different type of objections. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, every time I'm learning a new brand of a franchise that's available for me to offer, then I understand, hey, what does a non-buyer sound like? Right? And then what does
Mm-hmm.
a sound like? And the more I can qualify and have that muscle memory, then when I do have a buyer in front of me, I can predict what I should do for them to get to the ink.
Yes. 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 I tell a story about well I when I started when I it's historically when I've started a new position at a new company, my process is to typically kind of get into that position and see where everyone else is everyone else pretty adept at uh okay, so I'll say for instance, so I moved into a territory with auto adjusters, and all these other auto adjusters around me had, shoot, 20-year experience. They
Yeah.
were they were much smarter than I was when it came to the technical aspect of doing those appraisals. And I said to myself, this is awesome because I'm around so much knowledge that I get to absorb from it. But let me see, what can I bring to the table? Where do I fit in? What is my unique thing that I do well, so I can fit in like a puzzle, and gain from them all of their wisdom, all their experience, all of that you get over time. How can I speed it up for myself, right? Um, so my one of my last experiences, I came into a territory with all these smart people that I love, learned and grown from, but I noticed that no one was happy about inspecting these higher end vehicles. It
Mm,
it was the Maseratis, the Lamborghinis, the Rolls Royces, the Bentleys. There was a hole, and I was more than willing to actually fill in that hole. And that was where I was able to actually excel and become that that niche, the expert in that niche, where people called me from other states to find out about new technologies, because everyone didn't actually deal with those. But of course, when I first went into it, it was a little daunting because these vehicles were not typically in the database, and they caused some additional research. But it through repetition, seeing those cars over and over again, I've probably looked at thousands of those cars. Then I learned before I even went out there, okay, this is what to look for. This is a shortcut, or this is this is a trick that if you do this, you can actually find more parts. I found suppliers that I could call, and they would have parts for me, and I could rely on them. So I think you can, kind of the same way right now, the position that you're in. What do you think?
yeah, basically be your own solution and provide a service and in the gaps that don't exist yet, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then really the way that you do that is you got to get used to carrying more weight than you have on you, right? Because I tell you this, if I'm walking right now with an extra 8 pounds, as soon as I take them off,
You
easier
feel
to
like,
walk, easier to run, easier to do everything. But I'm already used to doing things at a higher level, at a higher speed, right? Because of this.
uh-huh.
So why not put yourself in an advantage where you're always 8 pounds ahead and 8 pounds lighter when you take this off, right?
Right.
It's like kind of, I love what Grant always says. He's like,
Uh-huh.
he's like, um, well, two things. One, he's like to go. He's like, and I listen to this thing all the time. The 10x Growth Con,
Hmm.
Vegas, 2018. I listen to that speech a lot. I just like something about it just always just gets me in the right moment at the right time, and I could always listen to that. But he's like, when people call me about being disappointed, he's like, to go to these giant multipliers, to go to 10x and to 10x from 10x, like you have to go through these appointments. And he's like, if somebody calls me and tells me like they're going through this, I'm like, yeah, tell me something I didn't know, or like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what's supposed to happen. Click. And I'm like, every time I have a disappointment, or like, I'm in this like new stage of growth, a new stage of like my sales career and of movement, of moving super fast at, 30, 40, 50 different kind of people I'm talking to every single day, then I
Hmm.
remind myself, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to feel like at this level.
And it's interesting because you have to go through that to get to the other side.
Yeah, you
Most
can't
people,
you can't skip it. If you skip it, we will know. You will know.
you will know, and you'll go into situations unprepared. You'll go into situations fearful, not being able to predict, not being able to KNOW, which is no, and you'll get a no, an
Yeah.
NO, because you don't KNOW, which is lacking the knowledge and the wisdom and really the practice. Most people, I think I said this a lot during our first when we started going through here. I see people, this is what I see. This is what I see out there. I see people skipping practice, skipping doing the actual work, skipping the repetitions, skipping the calls, skipping the rejection.
You
And
gotta go through that rejection.
you
Like,
do.
I have, and I keep telling myself, every time I get a lead and every time I'm talking to people, the more I just stick to the process, the more they give me an opportunity to refine my own process. So then when I am in front of a buyer, then I can actually, the perfected process that I've already practiced on with people that weren't buyers,
Yeah.
put it in front of the buyer, and you put that in front of a right person, and that exact word track and that exact pattern of doing something. And now all of a sudden that person's like speed like towards the close because they understand what you're saying. And all the questions that other people asked you, you're going to be upfront about those. Hey, and I know you're probably wondering about X and Z. And here's all this information. And then by the time you've even talked to that person, you've already curated and contextualized all those answers into things that you're telling them up front, as opposed to those arising from objections or questions at the end of the presentations.
Yeah, yeah. You read their minds. I I used
Yeah.
to I used to read minds. Well, you say it's read minds, but it just comes from doing so many reps that you know the questions that come up time and time again. I had to use that. You think that closing is just for selling? Closing is not just for sales. You have to close people on most jobs. Everything is just a skill. I had to, I would go out and I would inspect vehicles for hail damage, right?
Okay.
And it was almost like clockwork. The person that was making the claim would claim chips in their windshield and scratches and paint. And these were two things that we knew were not caused by hail: scratches in paint and chips in the front windshield. Now there's two ways to handle these questions. You can handle them when the buyer brings them up,
Or
or
you bring them up.
you bring them up. Which one
You
is more
always bring it. You always bring it.
which one is more powerful?
Hey, and I'm sure you had like something like, hey, and before you ask, just so you know, we know that hail does not cause scratches or paint damage.
No, I didn't word it that way, Laura. What I what I did, because I didn't want to assume that they were going to say something, because even that can bring up a little bit of hostility.
True, true. You got to know how to say it. See, this is
So,
why I need to practice that because I don't know. I would just making assumptions.
right. So what I did was I worked it into a presentation and I said that, oh, great. I'm so glad to be here today. What I'm going to be doing is a hail inspection. Now, there's a couple things that we know about hail. It doesn't chip glass and it doesn't scratch paint. Boom.
Leave
And
it
I
there.
and I handled that right up front.
You
Bef-
handle all those big objections right up front. Yeah.
before they had the opportunity to bring it up on the back end, and then I was explaining for 10-15 minutes, but I brought it up on the front end and I explained why it it doesn't chip the glass because it's made of ice, and it's what we typically see on cars are just the chips on front windshields, and that's from the debris from because the vehicle goes down the road and there's rocks and debris that chip. You won't see the chips on the side glasses. You don't see it on the back glass because that's not the glass that's exposed to the elements from the road. So I got that out of the way. Then I talked about paint and how ice doesn't have the material. It's water, frozen
Yeah.
frozen water. So it doesn't have the material composition of the paint to be able to scratch it, especially not in like these like elaborate patterns, because you know in order for something to do a scratch like that, it has to touch the surface and then it has to move along the surface to remove paint, and that it just doesn't happen, especially not horizontally.
Makes sense. That makes sense. And if ice was to move like that, it's probably gonna glide through it, right? Or slide through it. But that's why it leaves the dents, right? Because it is something
It
hitting it
it
hard, but
it,
it's
it
not,
just
not cutting through it.
exactly it just pink and then drops, pink drop, pink drop, pink drop, pink drop.
I
Yeah.
bet that insurance company just loved you because you didn't have to write any claims. You were like, your claim's denied, ma'am. Thank you for your
No, no, it wasn't about not paying. It was just about paying and paying fairly. Paying fairly. Paying what we owe, but then not paying what we don't owe. And sometimes
that makes
people,
sense.
yeah, not
You're the claims adjuster. You're the one that's paying fairly if you have to, but not paying that things that you don't have to.
right, right. Because in actuality, it's not fair to everyone that you're paying more, because if you pay more on one, it's a stick. It's like you have your FTC guidelines too when you're doing franchise. That's interesting. I find it interesting that some, because how your industry is regulated and you have to send disclosures. There's some industries out here that probably need to have disclosures, especially
Like
when it
what?
comes like like the online coaching industry, and like
Okay.
and like yeah,
Are you
okay,
talking about yourself? Are
no
you talking
it's let's say Grant Cardone.
okay.
What income earnings does he have to report to? And some of the claims he makes are quite questionable, but
Yeah,
he
I don't know if he's regulated or not. I have no idea. I'm sure he's regulated when he talks to licensees because that's a service offering that is also filed by the FTC if I'm not mistaken. So that
well,
could be.
not so much. I don't think so much that industry is governed by any particular body, I think unless somebody brings a suit up against him and maybe alleges that you know this product claimed that I would make so much money, blah blah blah. I think that's why a lot of people will have these disclaimers on their website saying that you know these are individual results. You may or may not receive the same results, and we are not making a guarantee that you will get these results, because if they don't have that disclosure like that, then they could put themselves in a in a situation where people feel they were not told the truth. Does that make sense?
It does.
But with yours, you have to provide that disclosure right off the beginning to show
Yep.
the income.
Yep. And or to show that there isn't, right? It just depends what's filed in there. And not just that. I always tell somebody, hey, I want you and I to always be literally on the same page. So with that, I have to send you the disclosure agreement. The reason being is this is a financial investment that involves opportunity and risk. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, I've got to have a receipt signature on file saying that you received it. Would you like to continue the conversation and get the document so you and I can be on the same page next time you and I talk? And then just kind of leave it there. If they say, well, I don't want to sign anything, no problem. You're not really signing anything. What you're signing is a receipt saying that you received a document. It's not a binding document, right? You start demystifying that. So it's always good to test people and be like, so somebody's like, oh, well, I don't want the document. I don't want any of that. Great. That means you're not ready to make this kind of decision.
Right.
Make
Right.
sense?
Yes.
So you want to wrap it up? I got 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to throw some shots out to all those out there on Facebook watching. We appreciate you. Essie, my cousin Tyrone. What's up,
My
Tyrone?
cousin.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my cousin Tyrone. I love you, cousin. Thanks for all your support. He lives in North Carolina too. I meant to tell you that.
Tyrone.
Ranel Yatsik. What's up, my friend? He's actually one of my ex-wife's relatives. He's watching. Ed Jewsbury. Hey, Ed. Good to see you. He's up there in, I think, Pennsylvania. Met him from another one of my exes one time. Justin. What's up,
The
Justin?
funnel's filled with exes that pay. That's all that matters.
I tell you, that's the only reason my videos get any views is because my exes are watching.
Because your exes are all over the country, so you have lots of viewers.
Justin, hey, MD, I love you, man. Love you. Appreciate all your help. James Martin, he's starting a YouTube channel up soon, and he's always super, super. I'm wishing you tons of best wishes to you on that journey, man. Thanks. I know you're going to do great. Brad Gain, he said, well done over on YouTube. Jerry Kwan, he said, give 100 with an emoji. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Thanks for practicing. Get out there and have an awesome week.
Yeah, and go close the deal.
All right.